Once upon an elven twilight, seeking challenge beneath the moonlight, an elf read through the ancient tomes that spoke of magic days of yore. A goblin king gone missing, leaving behind a city maze, it seeming as if a party great and festive marked the last of goblin lore. Behind him, legend tells, he set a test impossible, he swore, thus always caught behind their door. To find it, a golden fruit you gather, and offer to goblin rings, or rather a mushroom circle beneath full moon, its light your passage lit. Before you find yourself within a house, outside the gates but no way out, the test begun to putt your way through course 18, but so much more. For this course only had one goal, only one sure way to win, he'd swore, a hole-in-one as every score. And so the elf, firmly committed, gripped her club to the test, submitted all her skills she'd honed before this day from all that came before. A bank, a hill, past fire and candle, then loosened her grip upon the handle. A solid start, she thought, but briefly, for this shot felt the start of war. It was only one, a simple putt. It was just a start, a single score, for there were 17 holes more. The second hole proved so much harder. She'd have to putt this one much smarter, for no straight path revealed itself as she had seen it the hole before. A watering can abandoned, meaning its handle the only path now seeming, a viable way to get the ball around candles, lily pads, and more. The only way, but what a shot! A tiny mark she'd underscore, a hole-in-one, and nothing more. And then the gate before her yawning, her predicament so much more daunting, for this path curved seemingly forever without a window, slot, or door, and all along bricks jutting out to make her ball reverse its route, but a careful shot, and so much more luck to rely on than before. The ball curved round, and luck of luck bounced back into the slot before. She'd won, and now the maze explore. The fourth hole seemed the worst yet found, so many walls to work around, and then there were the gaping holes beneath the tiles upon the floor, her fear fast climbing, heart loud beating, but now there was no more retreating. She held her breath and swung her club at the ball laid simply on the floor. She watched it ricochet and bounce and find the hole and make the score, a hole-in-one like the one before. On 5, she thought, my God, it's moving, but of course I've always been improving, and I can handle this, before it shook me right down to my core. So up the ramp toward the green, to bounce toward the hole she'd seen. It rolled, she held her breath, an eternity before that wooden door. She watched the ball find its way into the path upon the floor. The hole came back, and thus the score. On 6, she found that hands were talking, and for a moment stood there gawking. Her ball would have to find the middle of the hill that stood before. So carefully she watched them moving, recalling holes that had been proving she'd find a path to slow the ball to perfect speed across the floor, bounce off a hand that traced a constant path across the cavern floor, into the hole. Now that's one more. Just beyond were talking heads, and then she saw, and still now dreads, the sight of those stairs blocking any path to that cup on the floor. So focusing, she saw in mind a path that her small ball could climb. So she swung toward the wall, that mouth, braced for what's in store. She closed her eyes, but snapped them open. She just couldn't now ignore how it found the cup upon the floor. With no time to gather courage, and a wall of blades that would discourage the stoutest heart from forgetting that this maze was built replete for war, this 8th challenge in the depths, one of 18 trying steps, downhill, round rock, and right into the blades that turned at this cave's core. A grateful sigh to get no closer to the knives that swung before. A hole-in-one, thank God, one more. At seeing 9, she gasped in horror at seeing what lay now before her, how to get the ball into the circle set into the floor. A last game? Was this the end? But no, she knew she'd never bend. This would not be the one that lost her hope of Alfheim's own fair shore. Her focus sharpened, she braced herself and hoped like never once before. Unbelievably, she won once more. With but a moment to catch her breath, avoiding almost certain death, she gazed upon the creatures spinning horribly across the floor. Would they help her putt? Push the ball across that green? And so she calculated the slow roll of the ball across the floor. It stopped, and then she waited for it to get pushed just a little more. Behold, another perfect score. 11 was the next to remind she'd made it onto the back 9, and now she stood considering the challenge set before 2 doors. The path of rock was surely blocking a knocker that no more was knocking, so to the side she tapped the ball and sent it to the knocker's core. She banked the ball around the rock and right into that twisting core, and now to step into that door. The smell of 12 was like no other, a stink that by itself could smother anyone foolish enough to drop a toe into that wretched gore. Across the bog she sent that ball to bounce back to a closer hall, to climb a hill to the small ledge so close and yet so far before a gentle bank and back into the cup, and at the sight she swore she'd win like this at least 6 more. At the city entrance a guard lay broken, a giant axe left now as token from what befell this kingdom Jareth the king himself had left before, a love, lore told, he couldn't claim, their banishment just himself to blame, and behind him left a world unclaimed, a shame, she thought, how could one ignore this lovely world now lost to this vile game the king had left in store, 18 wins to unlock its door. At 14, her thoughts snapped back in fear. The hole was anything but near. Down 3 tiers, a pipe to wind you down into the city's core. A tempting path to make you think that only this would help you sink. A hole in one, but she knew this as merely fanciful decor. She set her sights and swung. It bounced, first 1, now 2, then 3 and 4. A perfect shot, all would adore. 15's course climbed up a hill, a winding route that left her ill. Rocks large and small lay in the path, and overhead a barn owl soared. She calculated routes both true, where luck weighed less, but there were few. Then made her move, she swung, and swiftly up the hill that ball did soar. I'll beat this maze, remain unfazed, his labyrinth love and yet abhor. The putt was true, now just 3 more. The next room felt so odd, alone, vague echoes around the abandoned throne, an easy putt that left some time to consider what could lie in store. For if this kingdom won by her hand opened doors to this lost land, then what was next? What outcome did this undertaking bring her for? Was it possible the dreams that came and haunted her all the weeks before had meant to bring her through this door? Hole 17 laid blank her mind, the makings of a mad design, for stairs went every way, and truly gravity they did ignore. How to make this hole in one across a madman's house of fun? She tossed some rocks to test the room, where now a wall was just a floor. She breathed a wish, drew back her club, and oh so quietly she swore. But the putt fell true, now just 1 more. She gazed around ballroom 18, all masks and food, a magic scene. The dancers' paths carving round the hole now centered in the floor. Her path was true, she'd won, she knew. Freedom gained, she'd paid her due. But now she thought, abandoning all this after a hard-won war? I beat your test, I aced your scheme, fell not to this world labyrinthine. So now your throne I claim, as no one dare to question or ignore. A new queen throned forevermore. And to this day, if one should call on the elven goblin queen's masked ball, they'll find a pleasant drink and game awaiting them inside that door. For there is song and there is dance if you decide to take that chance. The par is fair, so bring your club, your fancy dress, a drink to pour. Kick off your shoes, let down your hair. This world you'll love and much adore. And that's the tale, there's nothing more.